Lisa Bowles, the Soul Mapper here, and you're watching Soul Map TV. I was listening to the radio and I heard an interview with Soul Dad. Let me just check, make sure I say this right. Soul Dad O'Brien. She's one of the feature talking heads on CNN. There was a part of the interview that my ears perked up. And it kind of gives us a leaping off point into a line of questioning and an exercise that I think you might find really useful when it comes to establishing the kind of approach you might want to take as someone sharing a message. Let's just be really straight up. If you're a purposepreneur, you're sharing something that likely has never been seen before in quite the way you can extend it into the world, right? Which means that you have to communicate in a particular way. You're sharing a message, maybe one that's never been heard before. So getting good at clarifying how to extend that message is going to become important. So here's the part of the interview that really grabbed it for me. And I'm going to read this so I don't mess it up. You know the head of the spear forces that lead any kind of military campaign? Well, there's journalists who love and do their best work from the head of the spear while the bombs are flying and the bullets are ricocheting. That's their place in the action to tell their best stories from. I'm not one of those journalists. I'm the kind of journalist who's happiest going in after the campaign's over, during the aftermath, so to speak, when there's a whole different kind of heroics being lived. And this is the part where my ear perked up. A whole different kind of heroics being lived. The stories of people finding their footing again, rebuilding despite loss and adversity and uncertainty. Those stories inspire me. That's where I do my best journalistic work. Now, the reason why, I found a way to go listen to the same interview again so that I could write that out verbatim, because buried inside of it are some really great clues, okay? I learned what kind of storyteller and messenger I am when I first started doing the Small Business Big Ideas show here in Toronto. I didn't start out hosting the show on Sunday mornings. I started out by doing a 3-minute segment once a week in the show. And I was in a really great position. I had the chance to do any segment, any kind of focus I wanted to. A really fortunate position to be in. But my focus was one that was of real personal interest to me. And it was this: telling the stories of people overcoming challenge and adversity. Why? Because I'd had trouble overcoming challenge and adversity. And in some cases, I didn't overcome it or thought I hadn't. And because most of us entrepreneurs, purposepreneurs in particular, but entrepreneurs in general, have a hard time dealing with the adversity or challenges that come with building a business, especially if what you're doing has never been seen before, okay? We hit a speed bump and it shakes our confidence. We experiment and it doesn't turn out the way we expect it to, and it erodes self-trust. I mean, there's all kinds of external roadblocks and challenges, really, right? And then there's the inner ones. So it fascinated me. It just fascinated me how people encountered and overcame adversity and challenge. So I had the opportunity to interview and research people who, in some really extraordinary situations, like losing limbs or being in the middle of a tornado, which actually happened to me, an extraordinary car accident where they became a paraplegic, or they suddenly developed a life-threatening disease, how they faced what had happened and risen above it or beyond it. How did they do that? What did they have in common, if anything? So I had the opportunity to tell those stories Sunday mornings for 3 minutes. And inside that storytelling, like Soul Dad O'Brien, I found that there were certain kinds of stories that I felt compelled to tell, and there was certain aliveness to the research process and then the communication of the story that helped me start to find my own messenger or storytelling vibe. And I'm still telling those stories, just in a different way now. I'm not on the radio. Here I am, Soul Map TV, and inside my business, but the messenger in me, the one who feels driven to communicate for a good reason, inspired, excited, fascinated, captivated, and because of those things, able to do my storytelling best, is really at the center of how I communicate, how I market, and how I've branded the Soul Map. Start to make sense? So here's some things that might be useful for you to think about. One, inside the kinds of stories that you routinely find interesting, and where on the spectrum of things they happen. So as Soul Dad O'Brien was saying, some journalists go in at the head of the spear, at the beginning of things, when everything's kind of flying. Is that you? It wasn't her. She learned that she was the person who went in after that main part of the campaign was over and people were starting to rebuild. That she found a different kind of heroics then. So that's another clue. What kind of stories do you find heroic, moving, noble, inspiring? Inspire you, and then have you want to inspire other people. And how can you infuse your communication with that sensibility? What parts of the story do you want to tell? So Soul Dad wanted people to get the heroics thing. It's a longer tail. It's not quite, things are flying fast and furious and then it's over. This is a more long tail. So the pace, the rhythm will be different. And that means that your marketing style, natural and authentic, purposeful to you, will be different. Okay? What stories, big picture stories, absolutely fascinate you? What I found when I looked at the kinds of stories I started telling on Small Business Big Ideas was that I'd been fascinated by those stories all my life. But because I'd never been paying attention to them, I didn't know that fascination was there. I didn't know that I was attracted to those stories, compelled to be a part of those stories, and then to retell those stories in ways that help me and help others rise despite adversity, challenge, confusion, disorientation, and sometimes discouragement and despair. This will tell you what kind of messenger you intend to be, and it will help you see the clues inside the stories you're fascinated by and want to retell. The pace, the rhythm, the mode. See how your way, these tiny little clues that are inside your own life, can actually give you a roadmap to the kind of messenger or storyteller you want to be inside your business, and why. You're here to stand for something, to champion a certain part of the human story, somewhere along the line, front end, back end, somewhere in the middle. What story is that? And can everything you extend out into the world, every little bit of marketing, be infused with that, to inspire, to heal, to uplift, to remind us that we have it in us to be who we are? Makes all the difference in the world, doesn't it? Your business exists in part to say those things. And saying them changes marketing, which changes business. And that changes the game. And that's what we're here for, right? What kind of messenger are you? Try these questions on for yourself, and you'll start to see that embedded in the stories that you're fascinated by are the clues that will help you map that out. If you love this exercise and you try it on for yourself, please let me know how it goes down below. If you think this would help someone else, please make sure you share and pass on the word. We're going to be publishing some new goodies in the next couple of weeks, so make sure you hit subscribe because we can't fit all that stuff into each webisode, right? As you go back out there, trying to help yourself be a little clearer about the kind of messenger and champion you're here to be. Keep these words very much in mind. You weren't an accident. You weren't mass-produced. You aren't an assembly line product. You were deliberately planned, specially gifted, and lovingly positioned on earth by the master artisan. What do you believe the stories you're fascinated by will do for you and for all the rest of us? It can make all the difference in the world, right? That's it for this episode of Soul Map TV. Until next time, this is Lisa Bowles, signing out.